Not all disabilities are obvious. Let's talk about type 1 versus hearing loss. And to do that, we're gonna bring in my friend who is definitely living with hearing loss.
Hey, I'm Tara, and I'm 80% deaf. Actually, I don't know how deaf I am.
It's a lot.
I'm not that deaf.
You are. You've been hit by a car. She got hit by a car in a parking lot, I think twice.
I got hit, yes, in a parking lot and on my bicycle.
Okay, but also I'm talking to you and you often cannot hear me. You don't even respond.
Oh, I can hear you. You talk too much.
That's not nice. I have a lot to say.
It's called selective hearing.
That's rude.
Is my deafness really a disability?
Yes, she got a handicap parking pass because of being hit by a car on 2 different occasions.
Yes, I do have a handicap pass.
She needs it. Okay, but just like type 1 diabetes, hearing loss is invisible. You pull into your parking spot and I bet you people are watching you get out of the car and they're like, what is she doing with a handicap parking pass? She rigged the system. No, I'm kidding. She needs that pass. She should not be walking around parking lots all by herself. And you were not born deaf.
I was not born deaf. I was first diagnosed with hearing loss at 8 years old, only in my left ear. And then at some point, I went back for a hearing test. They said my hearing was 100% fine. And I did not wear hearing devices until I went into college. I'm not sure how it fell through the cracks.
Oh, hearing loss falls through the cracks? You know, diabetes can fall through the cracks too. Like people are misdiagnosed with type 2 as adults when they actually have type 1.5, which is really type 1. It just progresses really slow. Children have been brought to the hospital with the early signs of type 1 and the symptoms and then sent home because they probably just have the flu. So that's really interesting that hearing loss can fall through the cracks, just like type 1 diabetes can fall through the cracks. Now, falling through the cracks for type 1 could be like, you know, life-threatening, but falling through the cracks for hearing loss, like that impacts your ability to keep up in school, to keep up in your job, to function. My blood sugar is dropping right now. Okay, I'm treating the low with Mike and Ike's. Bear with me.
I'm low.
Rude. Okay, but type 1 diabetes is really expensive. Insulin is so expensive. It's supposedly one of the most expensive liquids on the planet. How expensive is hearing loss?
Hearing loss is expensive. I don't think it compares to diabetes. A pair of hearing devices is anywhere between $6,000 and $8,000.
How long do they last?
About 4 years.
I mean, that's a big cost up front, but that's not bad if they last you 4 years.
Yeah.
And you can't even see yours. Can you tell she's wearing hearing aids?
Actually, there are some affordable hearing devices you want to know about. These hearing devices are pretty cool from here. They're under $400. We even put one on Ginger's husband.
He's a little bit in denial about his hearing loss.
Super easy to put on. Indiscreet, can't see with the clear tube. Well, Carl, what do you think?
I've actually only been wearing these for like 15 minutes and I am truly amazed. I did not know I had this much hearing loss.
I have wanted him to start using hearing aids for maybe a couple of years. He is seriously realizing right now while we are filming this video how much he needs the support from a hearing device.
There's a phone boost option, which is my favorite feature by far. So it focuses on the caller's voice and blocks out some of that background noise so you have the caller voice enhancement. What makes these extra special is they're only $3.99 and that's a very hard price to beat. You can find them over at lhere.com.
So in type 1, we have seen like incredible progress just in the last 10, 15 years in diabetes technology, but you still got to work really hard like to try to get it or get the right stuff or get it the right way so that it doesn't cost $1 million.
Hearing devices are not covered by insurance. You definitely have to work hard to find the best deal.
Wait. They're not covered by insurance?
No.
Ever?
I think there's a few companies that do it. My last insurance company covered hearing devices for children ages 0 to 8 years old.
What? Wait, how can hearing aids not be covered by health insurance?
I'm not sure.
That is insane. Okay, my friends with type 1 who are so mad at the health insurance industry, and we have every right to be, but get that. She cannot get hearing devices without paying out of pocket. That's crazy. Okay, so we all know that people say kind of thoughtless, insensitive, just rude things to people with diabetes all the time. Does that happen if you live with a hearing loss?
Absolutely. In fact, the number one most annoying thing that I ever hear is when I tell people I have a hearing loss, their response is, "What?"
As a joke?
As a joke.
Wow. I guess that's kind of on par with like, oh, did you eat too many donuts? That's rude. Don't do that.
No, it makes me furious.
Were you ever embarrassed to have your hearing aids like seen by people?
I was when I was younger, and then I was a little bit nervous when I started dating to let people know that I had hearing devices.
Okay, that's pretty similar to the experience of being a young person with type 1. You're like, what will they think? Personally, I think that people will think whatever you think. If you walk around proud of the fact that you deal with type 1 or hearing loss every single day, other people are going to look at it and think, man, that's impressive. That person deals with diabetes and hearing loss. I don't care. If you don't like it, go date someone else. So I think we can all agree that there is plenty of stigma that comes with either of these disabilities. Hey, wait, speaking of disability, who actually will classify these as a disability without having to fight for it? Turns out nobody. You have to fight for disability status with type 1 or hearing loss through the ADA, the American Disability Association, to get that disability status if you need it. People would say, well, you don't need disability status, you're doing great.
True, and honestly, I don't want to fight the fight. I shouldn't have to prove it. You can take a look at my medical records.
Yeah, I shouldn't have to prove to a health insurance company that I do need insulin again, but this is the life we live when you live with a chronic condition. You like constantly have to demonstrate and prove that like, hey, this is still a real part of my life. That's exhausting.
Very.
All right, so it sounds like having a hearing loss affects every part of your life every single day.
Just like having type 1 diabetes affects your everyday life.
So I guess nobody's got it easy. Hey, you're doing great.
You're doing great.
All right. Okay, so there's a man who's like 20 feet from his wife and he says, hey, honey, I think you're losing your hearing. She doesn't respond. And he gets a little closer and he's like, hey, honey, I think you're losing your hearing. Can you hear me? She doesn't respond. He moves a little closer. He's finally right next to her. He says, hey, honey, can you hear me? She goes, yes, for the 4th time, I can hear you. Turned out he was the one with the hearing loss. Do you like that joke?
No, that's terrible.
Oh, darn it. That means that hearing loss jokes are just as not funny to people with hearing loss as diabetes jokes are not funny to people with diabetes. I'll whisper, and she can't hear me. I'm like, oh, your hearing loss is getting worse.
I steal her candy.